Good morning to everyone. I want to welcome everyone to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. My name is Jerry Shockey. I oversee all the educational programs here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, and it's great to have you all join in for our still relatively new series called Heart of a Hall of Famer. And the real idea or concept behind this is to demonstrate what it took to get in the Hall of Fame beyond just the athletic abilities. And as we showed with the last group, one thing that can be said is that if most of our Hall of Famers, if their God-given ability didn't lie in professional football, they would have excelled at some other endeavor in life, whether it's pastor, whether it's plumber, whether it's teacher, whether it's lawyer, whether it's doctor, whatever it might be. Because at their core is their character, their ability to persevere, their diligence, their dedication, their determination, all those things, and those 6 pillars that I know you guys are studying right now: the trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, and citizenship. So this is what we're going to talk about here today in this program, is how these core character qualities help them achieve greatness both on and off the field. And we have a great example of someone who's achieved greatness both on the field, winning Super Bowls, as well as being inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and someone who's achieved greatness off the field, as you'll see, being a head of a business, being in charge, or being involved in numerous foundations and a lot of community involvement, which are definitely his passions in life. So with that being said, before we get started on the actual program and ask Mr. Monk, our guest speaker here today, to give his opening remarks, what I would like to do is, first of all, there's a whole host of individuals that make this possible, and I'd like to thank those folks. First of all, the folks that are hosting Mr. Monk here today in Reston, Virginia, our good friends at Tamberg, now part of Cisco. They are hosting him and doing the broadcast from Reston, Virginia, which is where Mr. Monk currently resides. So I want to say thank you to Carrie and Jennifer and Scott and Tony and Carolyn and all the folks that have helped make this possible. It wouldn't have been possible without you. So thank you for that. And then again, our friends at eTech Ohio, as always, they're always with us for all these programs, the past 12 that we've done here. The folks that you guys as teachers that have probably called and talked to, they're our state bridge for the state of Ohio, and they're the ones helping get all these sites connected, and their whole team there that helps troubleshoot everything. Derek and Aaron and Josh and Michelle, I want to say thank you for all your help in making this possible. We can't go without thanking our teachers today, and not only just our teachers, but all the folks. As you know, with school districts, there's a lot of folks that are involved in just one video conferencing broadcast. So you have your teachers, your librarians, your school technology coordinators, your district technology coordinators, all the folks that help make this happen. And then lastly, excuse me, I'm still struggling with a cold here in Canton, Ohio, but I'm trying to get over it. And then lastly, I'd like to thank the students, because I know you guys have come in and put in a lot of work and done some research on Mr. Monk's career and on these 6 pillars, and I've seen the result of that in the questions that your teachers have submitted to us. So I want to thank you all for your hard work and making this possible as well. And obviously, I would like to recognize those schools that are in attendance here. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do, when I call upon your school to recognize your school as a participant, you can feel free at that time to go ahead and unmute your mic, show a little school spirit, cheer. Let's see who can outdo one another. Let's see who can be the loudest, whatever it might be. So with that being said, let's go to Post Oaks Middle School. Are you there? Woo! All right. Thank you, Post Oaks. That's in Virginia. Let's go to New Jersey now. Cream High School.
Your camera.
Yeah. One, three.
Yeah.
Did I catch you guys snoozing a little bit?
Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. Let's try it again. Let's go to Cream.
Yeah. You don't touch your sword.
Okay, all right, thank you, Cream. Go ahead and mute your mics there. Let's go to Montana, Billings West High School.
Hey, this is the home of the Bears. Give them 2. Ready? Yeah.
All right. I think we got a football team there, huh?
Yeah.
So, very good. And let's go to our friends in California in Kings County, JFK. Much better, much better. And let's go not too far away from you guys in California and Lemoore. Go ahead and mute your mics, JFK. Let's go to Liberty Middle School. And then there are a couple schools tuning in as a view-only group, but we definitely appreciate you guys being part of this. But you can feel free to shout out and give your school spirit. Let's go to Dallas, Texas, Dallas ISD, Woodrow Wilson.
Kind of forgot that it was on.
Thank you, Woodrow Wilson. What you lack in number, you make up for in enthusiasm. Thank you very much. Let's go to. Have you guys mute your mics there in Dallas? Let's go to North Carolina, Huntersville, Hopewell.
Hey, Tom! What's up? Hey, Tom!
All right. Thank you, Hopewell High School. And then last but definitely not least, we're going to Abbeville, Louisiana for a homeschool group. Let's go to you guys.
1, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3. Go Tigers!
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate all the schools that are in attendance, and I just want to remind you, just for the to keep things moving in this program, everyone to please keep your mics muted until your school is called upon. But I would now like to introduce our featured speaker here today, and that is obviously Class of 2008 Pro Football Hall of Fame member Art Monk. And I have some information that I'd like to share with you guys about Mr. Monk's career before we get asked into with his opening remarks. First of all, he was born December 5th, 1957 in White Plains, New York. He was a first-round draft pick, obviously by the Washington Redskins, as you can see in his background there, and that was in the 1980 NFL Draft. In his first season, he caught 58 passes to earn all-rookie honors. He had 50 or more receptions in 9 seasons. He gained 1,000 yards 5 times. And get this, you know, a lot of you know that Jerry Rice holds all the marks in receiving now. Well, a lot of those marks, he had broken, the gentleman that you have here. Set the NFL records for catches in a season with 106. Most consecutive games with at least 1 reception, 164. And then at one time was the career reception leader in National Football League history at 820. He ended up going on to finish his career with 940 catches. He was named to 3 Pro Bowls, and he was All-Pro twice. Now that gives you a little bit about his on-the-field achievements, but again, as we shared with the groups earlier, you know, his off-the-field achievements are equally as impressive, if not more so. He is a co-founder and managing partner of Alliant. Alliant is a 100% minority-owned operated company that represents the Visa, MasterCard Association, and sponsoring banks that specialize in credit card and debit card processing and related services. And obviously, again, as being the co-founder, he's tied in all different areas of the company, but he's responsible mainly for the business development, sales and marketing, and managing the administrative side of the company. Among all his endeavors, Art makes numerous public appearances, speaking about whether it's about business strategies or what his passion is his commitment to youth. He is someone that has a deep passion for his community, as I shared, and especially youth. His focus with youth is based on his belief that education is the key to the future of our youth, and his community engagements or the organizations that he's involved with definitely reflect that passion that he has. He co-sponsored the I Have a Dream program, which guaranteed a college education. Now get this, guaranteed a college education for 60 elementary school students in Washington, D.C. He also created the Good Samaritan Foundation, which provided a wide range of academic development and value-based education programs. And one thing in dealing with folks that know Mr. Monk well, on and off the field, the one thing that's said about him that you'll keep hearing is that one thing he's known for is for his preparation and his work ethic. And the players that played against him and with him know his workouts were legendary. I mean, how hard he worked. He's been called a man a few words, but as you guys can see, I think it can be said pretty simply that with art, actions speak louder than words. And you'll notice in all the things that he shares today, all these will tie back directly into those 6 core pillars that you guys are studying. Again, the trustworthiness, the respect, responsibility, caring, fairness, and citizenship. With that being said, before I ask Mr. Monk to open up and with opening remarks, I do want to show you guys a little snippet of his on-the-field career and on-the-field activities.
Art Monk was the Redskins' #1 draft selection in 1980.
Lose this out. Yeah.
should be. What a great record to break, and a well-deserved honor for Art Monk.
And if you can all, for a second, unmute your mics for the time being and join me in giving a warm round of applause hello to Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2008 and Redskins great Art Monk. Mr. Monk, the microphone is yours, and I'll remind all groups to please keep your mics muted. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and good morning. And watching that little video clip always brings back some great memories I had during my career. But I'm excited to be here with you today, and I'm excited about being part of this, the Hall of Fame, the Heart of a Hall of Fame series. I would say that I am a little jealous of you guys because this technology didn't exist, when I was your age. What a great way to learn about people and about cultures and about different environments or industries, meeting people. And I would have loved to have been able to talk to some of my heroes, sports heroes, or just people, celebrities or people within the community as I was growing up. So it's a great way to learn. Obviously, this series is about the Heart of a Hall of Fame, or at least something that's very dear to me, is character and integrity. Just something that's I found to be very important. Something that my parents instilled in me when I was growing up. Obviously, I was a very talented kid when I was young and played a lot of different sports. And back in the day, we didn't have video games or computers to keep us indoors, and so we were always outside playing from sun up to sundown. But despite my pursuit of athletics and being talented and gifted in that area, my mom would always pull me aside and say, yes, it's great to have those gifts and to go on and do great things, but what's really going to make you successful is who you are as a person, your character. And as you go on to develop your athletic endeavors, please make sure that you also develop who you are as a person, your character as well. And I didn't always understand that at first. It took me a while to kind of understand it. As a young man, you kind of want to do things your way, and you kind of go off with your friends and act crazy, and you're being a knucklehead, as we all are, I guess, at times. But as I grew older and became more mature, I began to understand that the value of really what my parents were instilling in me at that time. And I began to adopt that into my life. And there were some instances that kind of happened along the way that kind of really wake me up to realize that. And so I adopted it, and that's kind of how I lived my life for a long time. Yes, I've had a great career, and I've done some great things with some great people, with a great organization. But even now that my career is over, what's maintained my success is not the fact that I played football, but the fact that I've conducted myself as a great human being, and it's been kind of what people know me for, at least in this area. And so hopefully as we go through this and you ask your questions and I'm able to answer them, hopefully I'm able to answer them, that you will kind of get it and connect the dots and realize that it's more than just going on and being a great athlete or a lawyer or a doctor or whatever you do, but what's really going to enhance those things is who you are as a person, and hopefully that you'll live that type of lifestyle as well. So I'm ready for any questions that you may have.
Okay, and thank you, Mr. Monk, and we appreciate those great words of advice. And one thing that we are going to do, we're going to rotate through, and I'll give you guys the order of the questions. We're going to go through 2 questions for each site, and we'll rotate through as many times as we can. The order will be Post Oaks Middle School, Cream High School, Billings West, JFK, and then Liberty. And one thing I encourage you guys to do is, as you already do, as I've seen in the questions that you have submitted to me, is this is the opportunity right now to talk with one of the greatest football players that has ever played in the National Football League. All those greats that you see on TV, whether it's a wide receiver position or any position, they aspire to be the man that you're looking at on camera right now. They aspire to be a Pro Football Hall of Famer, to be a Super Bowl champion, all the things that he is. And I guarantee you, I have a hunch that most of these folks would aspire to be as successful and be the person that he is off the field as well. So you guys have an opportunity to talk with not only the greatest players, but one of the greatest people in this country. I mean, just all around, just a genuine person that's willing to share with you guys what it took to be successful. And so I encourage you guys to ask those thought-provoking questions that you guys have prepared. So with that being said, we're going to start the program off. We'll stay in your same state there, Mr. Monk, and we'll go another group in Spotsylvania, Post Oaks Middle School. Go ahead with your questions.
After a successful football career, you could have said bye to everybody. You have your money. You have your money. But instead, you gave back and are continuing to give back to your community. Why did you make this choice?
Well, you know, it was important to me. You know, obviously, you know, I had a great career, and I didn't make a lot of money like the guys make today. So I did have a little bit, but you know, it was important for me. And I was raised up. I saw my parents work hard, and my father worked, you know, 12-hour days. I hardly saw him at times. My mother was up early. She worked all day. And so I saw how they worked. And yet, as hard as they worked, when they came back home, they were always helping people. You know, as tired as they were, as, you know, the lack of resources that we had as a family, we didn't have a lot of money. They were always giving things away. They were always doing things for other people. And so I was kind of raised in that. And so when I got older and was able to do for people, I just felt like it was important for me to do that. I played and performed in a community. I was very supportive to me in my career playing football. So I felt an obligation really to go out into the community and give back. And for me, I was interested in helping young people. I did a lot of different things, but my focus was really just on education and work with young kids and providing opportunities. And so I just felt like, yeah, I had a successful career, but that didn't mean that I can just keep all that to myself and go off and not do anything for anybody. I used my resources to invest back into the community that I lived in, and I felt that was important. And so that's why I did it.
Next question there, Post Oaks.
What goals did you have in your youth? How did those change, and what did you have to give up to reach your goals?
I really didn't have a lot of goals. I was very talented in athletics, but you know, when I looked at, you know, a lot of kids would say, well, I want to play in the NFL. My goal is to play in the NFL. I never felt like I was good enough to play in the NFL. And, you know, I always saw guys that I watched on TV, they were way up here. And I felt like I was down here. And I never saw myself ever reaching that, you know. And even though I had people encouraging me, and yes, you can do it, you work hard and put your mind to it, somehow I just didn't feel like it was achievable. But I continued to work hard and did the things necessary to be successful, which meant I couldn't do things. Which meant I
Remind everyone to mute your mic, please.
It ain't red.
Remind everyone to mute their mics, please.
Which meant, I'm sorry, where was I? Which meant that I couldn't do things the way I wanted to do them anymore. I had to do things the way that my coaches, my teachers told me to do them. And so I had to humble myself. When we talk about giving something up, I had to give up myself to do things the way that I was told to do them. And I worked hard. I did exactly what I was supposed to do, and I progressed and I became successful. And people began to see not only my ability to perform well on the field, but also my ability to conduct myself in a manner that was appropriate off the field. So that was attractive to college recruiters, and eventually, as I went off into the NFL. And so I didn't really have any goals, but what I saw, I continued to work hard towards, and my attitude towards that eventually got me there.
Okay, thank you, Post Oaks. And we're going to go to New Jersey at Cream High School. And we'll ask the groups, even in between your questions, if you can make sure to mute your mics even after you ask the question, we'd greatly appreciate it. So, Cream High School, New Jersey, Camden.
Go Black.
What have you been doing since you left football, and why did you pick that path?
What have I been doing since I left football?
Yes.
Well, okay. Well, obviously I realized even though I had a successful career in football, it's not something I can do the rest of my life. Eventually, and with all of you, no matter how talented you become in athletics or whatever you do, eventually those skills are going to be diminished, or somebody's going to be ask you to, or say they don't want you to work for them anymore. And obviously in athletics, your body just can't keep up that pace. And so my career came to an end, like it will for everybody who plays that sport. And so before I retired, I had to think about what I wanted to do when I knew the game was going to be over for me. And so I always wanted to run my own business, or I always wanted to get into what was interesting to me was marketing and advertising and design and that sort of thing. And something I studied while I was in college. So when I got out of football, I started an advertising and marketing firm, did that for a few years. The people that I went into business with, when we talk about character and integrity, they did not have that. And so I ended up resigning from the company that I helped start, and then went into business with a teammate of mine who did have the character qualities and the integrity that I felt was needed to be successful in business. We were on the same page. Went into the merchant services industry, which is what I've been doing for the last 11 years. And so it's just really having that mindset for the future, knowing that what I was doing at the moment wasn't gonna last forever, and I had to prepare myself now for that so when that time came, I can transition into something that I would enjoy doing or would want to do. And then in the meantime, also establishing relationships with businessmen in the community. And so, I can pick up the phone and call somebody who owns the business and say, hey, I need a job. And so those doors were always open and available for me to do that, but I instead decided to start my own company. And it became very successful. And obviously before doing that, you had to do your research and background on how the business works, and if it was something that I really wanted to spend, the rest of my life doing. And it obviously ended up being very successful. And like I said, we've been doing it for 11 years so far. So that's how I got to where I am.
And one of the things you'll find is that the same preparation that it took to make it in the National Football League is the same preparation he applies to in every element of his life, and especially his work environment. Now, he's not running 40-yard sprints or wind sprints or hills or anything like that, but he still works just as hard to make his business successful. It takes a dedication. He's got to be able to persevere through a lot of adversity, especially starting your own business. I mean, you're encountering a lot of adversity, and probably even more so than you would, being in the National Football League in some cases. So it really is a testament to his character, his ability to achieve on and off the field. So let's go to another one from Cream.
Come on.
What did you have to do to make it to the NFL?
It's a lot of hard work. Obviously, it started in college, and I mentioned earlier that there were a couple of things that happened in my life that really changed my thinking process about how to approach life. And in college, there were a couple of things that happened. One is, I was highly recruited, decided to go to Syracuse. I was a freshman, you know, I had this attitude that, you know, yeah, I'm here, I'm the best thing, you know, since sliced bread. And my running back coach my coach at the time was running us through some drills, and I didn't like the drill, and so I had a bad attitude about it. And he got in my face and kind of told me about myself. And so I was not only embarrassed, but I was also mad. But the things that he said just kind of, it impacted me. And it began to make me think about things that my parents told me growing up about, it's not about your gifts, your talents, but it's about who you are as a person. And that that woke me up and began to make me realize that I need to change who I was as a person. And so not only did I have to change who I was as a person to conduct myself as a man that was really appropriate, but I had to continue to work hard, even during the off season, continue to train and improve my conditioning. You know, I work out with friends as far as running routes and catching the ball to improve my ball skills. So everything I did was geared towards being successful at what I wanted to do. And that meant also being able to get along with my teammates, working together with them, not against them, because it's a team sport. So it wasn't just about me, but it was about my team and my team being successful. So it's a lot of little intangibles that really kind of make up the success of who you will be and or the success of your team or your business or whatever it is that you decide to do in life.
Thank you, Mr. Monk. And I just want to remind all the groups to please make sure your mics are muted even between questions. And thank you, Cream, for your questions. Let's go to Montana, Billings West High School. Go ahead with your questions.
Alright, so when you were playing, like, I know I always used, like, model myself after a player. Who did you model yourself as when you were playing in, like, backyard football and stuff like that?
Charlie Taylor, Otis Taylor, and Paul Warfield. I don't know if you know who they are. They were old-timers. But Charlie Taylor played for the Redskins. In fact, he ended up being my coach for a long time. Paul Warfield was with the Miami Dolphins. And obviously, you know, when they had that in the early 70s, you know, when they won Super Bowls. And then Otis Taylor was with the Kansas City Chiefs. And they were all somewhat big receivers except for Paul. And I was a big guy kind of myself as a receiver too back then. And so I always looked at them as a way and tried to model myself after how they played as wide receivers, as far as running routes, catching the ball, doing all the things, you know, to be successful as a wide receiver. They were kind of the guys I looked up to on the football field.
And thank you. And we can remind Cream, I saw you guys pop up on the screen. Just make sure to keep your mics muted there. Appreciate that. And Billings, go ahead with your second one.
Yeah. What helped separate you from other wide receivers that you played with during your career?
I think my work ethic. And again, it's something I learned from my parents. You know, I saw how hard they worked. I mean, they worked really hard. And so that was sort of ingrained in me. And plus, they made me work. So they made me work hard. And so I was sort of raised that way. And getting into the NFL, there was a guy by the name of Terry Metcalf. I don't know if you remember who he was. He was a running back for the St. Louis Cardinals, and he went up to Canada and played for a while. And he lived right across the street from me when I came here to Washington. And he was a workout nut. And, you know, for me, I was a young kid, and although I thought I worked hard, you know, I was just kind of sitting in the house and just not doing anything. So he was knocking on my door every day, pulling me out of the house. And we would spend the whole day working out, down on the track, riding bikes, playing racquetball. We were just active all the time. And so that really kind of enforced how I was raised. And from that time on, you know, of course you work hard during the season because you practice, but the off season wasn't an off season. You know, it wasn't a time to just kick back and relax. for me, it was a time to pick up my work even more and work harder so I can condition myself so when football started, I was ready to go. And even Coach Gibbs, you know, when I first got into the NFL, the coaches were all on top of everybody, you know, about working hard. And the off season was just kind of they didn't really care what you did. But when Coach Gibbs came in, he expected everybody to come into training camp ready to go, so we didn't have to spend time in practice conditioning or running. We can spend that time in practice and doing something that was really going to benefit us as a team. And so, you know, even when I went on vacations, I brought my equipment with me, my workout stuff with me. I went to the local gym. I ran in the mornings or in the evenings. I still continued my workouts, and it was important to me. In fact, when I missed a day, you know, it was kind of like, you know, like a junkie. I've never taken drugs, but you know, when I missed a day, I didn't feel right. And so my work ethic was probably what separated me from all the other kids that came in, because obviously when you bring in new kids, recruits every year, they're all very talented, but most of them, they would just practice when we practiced, and then when practice was over, they didn't do anything. I mean, they didn't do anything. They just kind of went about their leisure. And so I think that's probably one thing that separated not only myself, but I played with guys who also had that same mentality of really practicing, working hard, going out early before practice, staying late after practice to develop and work on skills, where other guys are just going on home, showering up, you know, going on home. So we did the extra little things that were important to really help assure our success on the field, not only as an individual, but as a team as well.
And I think I can see the smile from the coach all the way in Canton, Ohio here. You're probably reinforcing everything that he's tried to instill in his football players there about working hard, not only during the season, but in the off season as well. And you heard him talk about, you know, the preparation and if there's an area that you're struggling in, is working hard in those areas. Again, that applies to life. That applies to you guys in the classroom. Test taking. If there's an area that you're not very good in, you're gonna have to work double as hard to get better. And I guarantee you, if you put in that extra effort, you are going to get better. Maybe it won't be an A, maybe it won't even be a B, but again, if you show that dedication and that ability to persevere, I guarantee you will see improvement. And you're going to see improvements in all elements of your life if you take that same type of mentality, that same type of attitude, and the work ethic that Mr. Monk is sharing with you here today. So thank you, our friends in Montana. Let's go out to California. JFK.
Mr. Monk, how important is it to be known as a good teammate, and what does that look like?
It's very important to be known as a good teammate. Someone who, what does that look like? Well, someone who's unselfish, someone who is not concerned about them and their own success. You know, I played with some guys, you know, fortunately, even in the receiver position, where during the course of a game even, that they were always saying, I want the ball, throw me the ball. It was all about them. And rather than, you know, what was best for our team. And so being a good teammate means not being unselfish, being a teammate, meaning supporting your team. And so doing your job at your position, yes, which for me was more than just catching the ball, but it was also drawing coverage away from somebody so somebody else can catch the ball, and going downfield and blocking so our running game could have success for our running back, breaking downfield and hopefully being able to score. And so being a good teammate means that there's someone that can rely, that I'm dependable, that I'm trustworthy, that I'm caring, I'm giving of myself, and I'm doing everything I can for the success of not only myself, but for our team and for the other members of my team.
And that same thing would apply to any business. You know, we all enjoy being patted on the back a little bit and saying, good good job. But the bottom line is, we all, as employees here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, we all have to be good team members of each other, be caring and respectful of each other, and we have to be responsible and trustworthy and all those things. So, again, what's on the field applies off the field as well. Another question there.
Was it hard at times to play fair in the heat of the moment, and did you ever lose your cool?
Yeah, I think at times in the heat of the moment, it's always, you could sometimes lose your cool, but well, for me, I never had the mindset of being unfair. I was always going to stay within the rules. I wasn't going to give anybody a cheap shot. I wasn't going to do anything after the whistle. I wasn't going to elbow anybody or do something dirty like that, because it's just not part of the game. It's regardless of how upset you may be or how much pressure may be on you, I was not willing to sacrifice my reputation, or penalty for my team to do something stupid like that. And I think, a lot of guys, even today, they just kind of lose sight of that. They just get caught up in the moment and forget about everything else because it's all about them. And so, again, you just have to realize that it's not about you. And you sometimes have to deny yourself and what you feel that you want to do or might want to say for the benefit of everybody else and for your team. And so, regardless of, the heat of the battle or how much pressure that may be, there may be 5 seconds left in the game and you're down by 2 points, you need or 4 points, you need a touchdown. You just can't let the pressure or the heat of the game take you out of who you are as a person. And so I decided to live my life and to play this game a certain way, and I wasn't going to allow anything or anyone to disrupt that. Now, when I first got into the NFL, there were a couple of instances where I may have lost my temper a little bit, but eventually with the help of my teammates and with the help of, back then there were some older veteran that didn't take any mess, I guess is the best way to say it. And when you screwed up or did something, you not only had to face the coach, but you had to face your teammates after the game, and it wasn't a pretty sight all the time. And so you learn very quickly how to manage your own emotions during the course of a game, and doing that also takes you out of your game. The whole idea is to be able to focus and to yes, there's a lot of people, there's a crowd cheering, and there's a lot of things going on, but to be able to focus and do your job and do it effectively so you can continue to move the ball down the field and hopefully get a score. And when you allow the circumstances or somebody who's maybe pissing you off to get you out of your game, then it takes you away from being able to focus on what you want to do. And so I never allowed that to happen to me. And fortunately, I played with a bunch of guys who kind of had that same motto, and which allowed us to be successful for a long period of time and go to 4 Super Bowls.
Okay, well, thank you, JFK, and let's go to Liberty Middle School.
Was it difficult to play in the 30s compared to the 20s?
What was it? There's an echo.
Was it difficult to play in the 30s compared to the 20s?
When you were 30 versus when you were 20, was it more difficult to play as you got older?
I was gonna say I wasn't born in the 20s. Well, coming out of college, I was, a young buck in my 20s, and obviously coming into the NFL, football is football, but the guys are a lot bigger, they're a lot stronger, they're a lot faster. The offensive schemes, being that I was an offensive player, was a little more difficult, so there was a learning curve. And first year or sometimes 2 years, you kind of got to get used to that. But for me, I just love the game, and of course, being young, you adapt very quickly, and so you do well. And because you're young, you're able to you know, you may get hurt, but you recover very quickly. You may be sore, but you can still come back and respond very well. But as you get older, now when I got into my 30s, you know, then, you know, your body can't keep up this pace for very long. And as I think I may have said earlier with you guys, or maybe it was the group before, that you can't play this game forever. Your body just can't keep up the same pace. And so eventually, you know, your skills diminish, and, you know, the teams begin to start asking you to hang up your shoes, that you can't play anymore. You can't play as effectively as you used to. And so, yes, it was a little more difficult in my 30s than it was in my 20s, but, you know, still loved the game, still enjoyed playing, still had some level of success. But eventually, my age caught up to me, like it does with everybody, and I had to hang up my shoes.
Okay, we'll go with the next question. Liberty?
That was not the right question.
Yeah, you got it.
Do you own the company where you work now? If yes, how did it happen?
Yes, I own the company, and a former teammate of mine named Charles Mann, I don't know if you remember him, he was a defensive end. We started the business together, and before we started it, we actually kind of tested it for 6 months. We had this guy mentor us, and he kind of taught us the industry, showed us the ropes, the in and outs. We learned it very well, and went out and tested it into the market, and was very successful at it. And so that led us to staying in the industry and really becoming our own business, our own company, and doing it on our own. And we became, you know, very successful at it. You know, we started out in our homes. You know, I worked out of my home, he worked out of his. Then after a year or two, we found a small office that someone wasn't using, and we worked out of there. And eventually, we hired one person, and we hired a couple more people, and we grew to about 10 people, which is what we have now. And you know, so we're doing pretty well. But you know, it wasn't easy at first. We had to, you know, we didn't know anything about running a business, so I had to learn, you know, how to do the accounting. I had to learn how to do payroll and the bookkeeping, and had to learn how to do the HR, managing people, and learn how to do all the systems as far as our computers and the networks and all of that. Now, of course, you hire people to do specific things, but as an owner, you should know everything and know what's going on, so you know nothing kind of gets by you. So that was a learning curve, and you know, but we took baby steps and learned it, and researched it, and understood it, and put the right people in place, which has allowed us to be successful for 11 years now, and hopefully we'll continue.
Okay, thank you, Liberty. And what we'll do now is we've got looks like about 15 minutes left in the program. So let's go with one question from each group, and we'll try to get through as many as we can. We'll go back to the top with, in Virginia, Post Oaks. Go with your one question.
What were your obligations to your team and to your community as you took the leadership within your football team?
What were my obligations to my team and my community, and what was that other one?
As you took on the leadership role within your football team.
Oh, okay. Well, my obligation to my team was to do my job. You know, whether it's being paid to do it in the NFL or in college or in high school, if I was a wide receiver, if I made that starting team, or even if I wasn't a starting person, my job, even as sitting on the bench, was to support my team that was on the field. And so you root for them, you cheer for them. When they come to the sideline, you encourage them, you know, especially if things aren't going well. And if you are that person that's out on the field, then I need to make sure that I study, and that I watch film, and that I do everything necessary to make sure that I can perform my piece of the puzzle the best that I could. So not only that I can succeed, but that my teammates can succeed, and that our team can hopefully win the game. Now, your obligation as in the community is, you know, some athletes I know in the past said it's not their obligation. It's not, you know, up to them. But you know, I think for athletes or real leaders who are responsible, and I think that's one of the character traits that you guys are working at. Will always have an obligation for other people, not just yourself. And so, you know, I was raised up. I think I mentioned earlier, seeing my parents work really hard, and as they came home, as tired as they were, and even with the lack of resources that we had as a family, they were always giving stuff away and always doing for other people. And so there is a responsibility and obligation that comes with success, that comes with leadership, that you have to provide for other people. And that means, you know, giving of yourself for the benefit of somebody else that's maybe less fortunate. And so that may be giving of your money, that may be giving of your time, it may be giving of your resources. But there is an obligation, at least that I felt, in the teammates that I had with me, of really getting into the community and supporting them. After all, you know, at least on the NFL, here in Washington, D.C., people here are crazy about the Redskins. And so they would come out, cheer for us, and we would go to different events. They would come out and support us and encourage us. So I mean, why couldn't we do that now for them? So when the season's over, or even during the season, we would go down for events, you know, fundraisers, or get into the community with youth groups, you know, hospitals, the military. I mean, we got involved in our community and did what we can to support them the same way that they supported us. So I think there is an obligation there for, if you're a leader in some capacity, then you're gonna bear the weight of a lot of responsibility for a lot of people.
Hey Jerry, can you tell the story that you told in the last session when about when Art was enshrined in the Hall of Fame, the standing ovation story?
Oh yeah. When
Art
he was
wouldn't ask, but I
inducted,
will.
that's the voice in the background behind Art. Yeah, Art's induction ceremony in 2008. I've been here for 11 years, and I've seen a lot of folks be inducted, from Mehmet Smith to Jerry Rice to John Elway to Barry Sanders, and not one of them had a bigger ovation than Art Monk. I think he set the record for the longest standing ovation. They wouldn't even sit down, and I know that just had to be such a joy to be standing in front of all of the, pretty much Canton, Ohio was Redskins town for that weekend, and to stand in front of them and you know, to just take that all in, that experience just had to be amazing. So it was amazing for us, I know, here at the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
Let's go to Cream. Cream High School?
Did you ever want to quit? And if you did, what inspired you to keep going?
Did I ever want to quit, and what inspired me to keep going?
Yes.
Yeah. There was a time where I felt like giving up, and it was early in my career. Somewhat early in my career, where you know, everybody thinks that being an athlete or a celebrity is, you know, the best thing since sliced bread, and you know, they want the chasing the money or the fame or the notoriety of all of that. But when I came into the NFL and I had some success, I had that, but it didn't do anything for me. It wasn't what I expected it to be, and for most people, it's not. It's almost like when we won the first Super Bowl. We were all excited. There was so much hype and build up to the Super Bowl. And yeah, we won. We were excited, but the next day, there was this emptiness. You know, we're just like, okay, well, that's all there is. And so, being a celebrity and the fame and all that stuff you see on TV is just, that's all it is hype. You know, because yeah, you have material things and money, but with that comes a whole bunch of other issues as well. And so I didn't, you know, handle it very well, I guess. And I became very depressed. And I had a season where I couldn't catch the ball. I mean, no matter how much I tried. I just went through a season where I just had difficulty concentrating and catching the ball. And it was just a tough year for me. And I remember, at the end of that, or latter part of the year, Coach Gibbs came up to me and we were on our way to a meeting and said, "Hey, Art, I know you're struggling, but keep your head up. We're still depending on you." And him saying that really encouraged me. The fact that I felt like I was letting the team down and I was disappointing everybody, that he still had confidence in me and was still, he even said he was still going to throw me the ball. Typically when someone's not catching the ball, you don't throw the ball to him. But I was still involved in the offense. He was still throwing me the ball. And, I caught a few balls here and there, but that year for me was just a disaster. And, but the next year I came back, rebounded, and a lot of it had to do with Coach Gibbs just kind of still encouraging me and my teammates encouraging me, even though I felt like I was disappointing them, they were still there supporting me. And it just made all the difference in the world, and it pulled me out of that funk that I was in, and went on to have a great career.
And could you imagine if he decided to quit at that point? That gold jacket wouldn't be on him right now, for certain. So,
That's right.
Quitting is it's one of those things that if you get used to quitting, you're going to continue to do that, and if you get used to fighting through adversity, you're going to continue fighting through adversity in all elements of your life. So let's go to Billings West, Montana for your question.
Was there ever a time in your career or even in your life that you didn't succeed, and what did you do to cope with that?
Where I didn't succeed. I think that pretty much dovetails off of kind of the last question. Well, actually, no. I'll go back a little bit earlier. When I started first, as a young boy, like I said, that we didn't have computers, we didn't have video games, and so we were out in the street playing all day. And that's where all of us, the kids I grew up with, where we developed our skills, because we just played constantly all day. Football, basketball, baseball, curveball, stickball, you name it, from one thing to another. And so I was a pretty good athlete, coming up through the ranks, Pop Warner. And then, actually, when I first started Pop Warner, my first year, was kind of the second year for my friends, because the first year I was a little intimidated, was afraid to kind of join a team. The rest of my friends did. The next year they convinced me to play, and I did. And it was the worst year. It was the worst the worst experience I've ever been through. I was like the third string guy, and the third string guys were kind of like the dummies, the live dummies. So we never got to play, and all we were used for is this. The offense would use us to block us and knock us around, and then on offense we would just they battered us they just battered us. In fact, of all the new guys, the first year guys on that team, every single one of them quit, except for me, and I was determined that I was at least going to make it through the season, although I was miserable and I hated it. And in fact, after that season, I didn't play anymore for the next 2 years. And I just had to reevaluate, is this something that I really wanted to do? And but I was determined in my mind, because I loved the game so much, and also, again, because of the encouragement of my friends, that I was going to go back. And so I just, back then we didn't do a lot of training. You may have lifted some weights a little bit, but I joined, I was determined. I didn't let nobody push me around. I fought back. I didn't, back off. And, I still didn't play much, but that was kind of the start of me really becoming successful and realizing, this game is hard. It's harder than what I thought it was. It's different than playing in the streets. When you play organized, it becomes a little different. so I realized I had to do some things to kind of really make it. And but that was kind of the worst period of my time in my career. But I was determined not to let it, turn me away. I hope I answered.
Okay.
Did I answer your question? Okay.
Okay, I guess the silence I'm saying, I'm figuring this means a yes. So let's go to JFK in California.
Mr. Monk,
Yes.
was there a cornerback that you had a rivalry with?
Yes. Everson Walls from the Dallas Cowboys. And I think there's a school there that's in Dallas. But Everson Walls was number 24 for the Dallas Cowboys. He played when I was playing. That was kind of our not only the team was a team of rivalry, but me and Everson Walls kind of battled it out too. Also Ronnie Lott, who played for the 49ers back when he first started. Then he went on to Oakland and to the Jets, who and who also is a Hall of Famer. And but we had battles, I spent a lot of time, as I'm sure they did with me, watching film, so I could find every little, way to try to beat them as possible. And sometimes I was able to do that. I'd like to say most times I was able to do that. But there were times where they beat me as well. They stopped me from catching a ball or shut me down where the ball wasn't thrown to me, like during a quarter of a game or a half a game. And but in this game, you realize that there's a lot of great talent out there. That as great as you are, your opponents are just as good. They're being paid to play and to play well too. And so you got to study, you got to train, you got to work hard to develop your craft, to be the best that you can. And when you run up against those guys who kind of give you a hard time, especially like Everson Walls and Ronnie Lott, you always want to be at your best. And so yeah, I had, there were a lot of guys I had rivalries with, but I think those two are probably the most memorable for me.
Okay, and thank you, JFK. And we're just about out of time, so we're going to go to one last question from the very last group here. Liberty Middle School, the pressure's on. You get the last question of the program.
How did you do in school?
How did I do it?
In school.
How'd you do in school?
How well did I do in school?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good question. When I was young, probably, I don't know how old you guys are. You look like you're around 10 or 11. In any case, when I was around, 8, 9, 10, 11, school wasn't, I didn't think school was that important for me. And wrong attitude. It was just, one thing about being young, you just don't see, you don't understand really the things that are important in life until you get older. And it took some years for me to really kind of understand that, how important academics really are. But early in my years of school, I just didn't do very well. I just wanted to play ball. I just wanted to go outside and play. And so when gym time came or when recess happened, man, I was the first in line, and I was out there. But when school, I just kind of didn't give it my best. But I got to a point in high school where it was actually in 10th grade when I was elevated from JV, the junior varsity team, to the varsity. And at the end of the season, when the scouts come, the college scouts come to watch, to see the guys, to see how they might want to recruit them. One of the scouts saw me running around on the field and said, "Man, who's that?" And my high school coach said, "Well, first of all, he's just in 10th grade, but you know what? His grades, I don't know if he's going to, make it because his grades just aren't very well." And so my high school coach came and told me that, that a college scout was interested in me and what he had to tell her. And man, that was like, he could have just stuck a knife in my chest. I mean, it just really hurt me. And so from that point on, I just realized, man, okay, if I'm going to make it in athletics, I have to make it in my academics as well. That's just as important, if not more so. And so, I began to do my studies. I did my homework, I paid attention in class, got my grades up. So the next year as a junior, when those guys came back, my coach could tell them he's a different person. His grades are right, and obviously you can see how he performs on the field. So I think he's a candidate now. He's really turned things around. So my senior year, man, my grades were right. The scouts were right back. And that's when all the letters started coming, you know, about wanting me to come to their school. And that's how I got to college. It's because that one little incident that's turned my attitude towards my academics around. I realized how important it was to read and to write, to do my homework, to pay attention to my teachers in class, and get my work done, despite maybe some of the other kids around me that were goofing off and didn't want to get their work. I was going to make sure I got mine because it now because I realized now how important that was for the success of not just my football career, but now even as a business owner, the rest of my life.
Okay, and Mr. Monk, is there any other last thoughts or anything you'd like to share with the students here?
Well, I think it all just stems from kind of what I said in the beginning of the program, that it's not always about your athletic abilities or maybe how smart you are in a classroom. Obviously, you want to continue to work hard and develop those skills and do the best you can. But also, what's really going to enhance your success in athletics or in business is who you are as a person, your character, your integrity, how you conduct yourself as a young man or as a young woman out in your community or out in the workplace or out on the athletic field. That's probably more important for your success than your actually talents or your abilities. And so if you can just, as you continue to develop your athletic skills, your academic skills, don't forget your character, working on your character and your integrity, who you are as a
The conference is about to end.
And that's where your real success is going to come.
Okay, well, Mr. Monk, on behalf of the Hall of Fame and our board and our executive staff, I'd like to say thank you for taking time out. I know your busy day as a business owner and head of a foundation and involved with so many other organizations. We want to say thank you. Can everybody unmute your mics for the time being and join me and give a warm round of applause to Hall of Famer Art Monk? They're trying to outdo your ovation here in Canton, Ohio, I think. There. Again, I want to say thank you to our friends at Cisco there for hosting